I'm gonna give a stab at this. I have a lot of stuff that I feel like I want to say in this video, but with no real structure on how I'm gonna do it. But I do want to open this up with, this isn't gonna be like any of the other videos that I do. There's gonna be no skateboarding, there's no ads. I don't know how much of I feel like it's gonna get a little messy. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stay on track. I currently have like a temperature of 101, which in a weird way is a good thing because for me, I'm a pretty bubbly person and I usually have a lot of energy, and usually with something that I'm struggling with, and I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I think that my bubbliness can turn to anger really fast because it's an energy and it gets spent one way or the other. And I spent a little bit of time being pretty angry, and this flu's kind of calmed me down. So great time, I think, to talk about it and break it down. I do want to say or ask a favor of anyone who is going to leave comments. You can say what you would like, but I kind of learned from the video I talk about losing my brother that in conversations like this, people really want to discuss their experience and have these heart-to-heart moments, which by all means, if we run into each other, I am absolutely down for that. But when it comes to responding to the comments, it takes a lot of bandwidth for me personally to have conversations about very intense subjects, especially when there's a couple of them back to back. And the idea of leaving a comment unresponded to that is a very intense and heartfelt message that would take a lot of emotion for me to really respond the way that I mean to. It feels like it would be very daunting, specifically right now. And I know that's probably selfish of me to ask, but a heavy conversation right now just sounds like a lot. So I want to talk about a few things, but the first thing I want to talk about specifically is Victor himself. So if you don't know, our friend Victor passed away. There's two Vics. There's Little Vic, and then there's Victor Garcia. We jokingly call him Thick Vic. Ironically, Little Vic is bigger than Victor Garcia. He's taller, but he's probably being shown on the screen over here so you can know exactly what person it is. He hasn't been in my videos in about 2 months. He was injured. He hurt himself, so he wasn't skating and coming out, but he was very close to being able to skate again. But he was on our New York City trip, and he's been my thumbnail a bunch of times. He has a very cool way of skating, and a very unpredictable way of skating. He's the kind of person who it's really hard to pinpoint what he can and can't do. He surprised me a lot. Like, not even in like, oh, he does bean plants and he bean planted something bigger than he's ever done before. I mean, like, he would just like randomly do like a tech trick, and I was like, I didn't even know that you like played with that side of skating. A very exciting person to be around in person. But let me give you a little bit of background on Vic and his role in Powell Peralta in all of our lives. I think that the concept of a skateboard team being a family is thrown around a lot. But Powell Peralta, we skate together twice a week, every Wednesday and Saturday. Every team rider gets a text message and a location where we're going to meet up. Sometimes it's just a skate park for us to goof around at, and I'll film a video, or street skate, and I'll try to get what I can out of it. Or sometimes it's filming missions. Sometimes it's a much smaller crew and we don't film anything. We just all kind of skate together. And in that crew of team riders, we always have what I would consider like the friends of the Powell Peralta team. A lot of decisions, a surprising amount of decisions get made by the team, probably more than people realize. We all have a lot of conversations and discussions about who we think should be doing what and who we should be focusing on for their video part. Everything from who the team thinks should turn pro next to what skater needs a little bit of a pep talk or seems to be going through something. I would argue that we're probably closer than most skate teams, and we would have friends that would come out with us. So I'm sure you're familiar with like Kenny, or this Yvonne's been coming out a lot. Victor Garcia, that's kind of how I think he first started coming out. I want to say that Zach or Nigel started bringing him around. And now he's officially on the team, so that also happens. And then Victor was another person. Little Vic was coming out with us. And to kind of put in perspective how important Victor was to us, when we went on the New York trip, there was some rallying to figure out who's going on the trip, and like we got Victor paid for to come out with us to be like our filmer, even though like Victor, though he had like filmed some stuff before, like he's not filming with like an HVX, and here he is getting flown out to New York City with like a skate team. and he's basically, you know, the first couple times on the camera pointing this thing at John Bradford, trying to ollie this 10 flat 9 that no one's ever done at Princeton University. You know, this really exciting, it was just really fun to watch, like him kind of just get brought into this world. And that's also like, if you remember that like GoPro part that I put out, like that just happened because I had a GoPro and I was like, hey Vic, I don't know how to use this. I don't know what to tell you to do, but basically just follow me around with this thing. And in between all the videos that we'll be putting out on this trip, because we were there for 14 days and I mean, I was filming a ton and Victor helped me a ton with all of them. I think we put out like 23 videos and he helped me film a bunch of them. But on top of that, the in-betweens, he was just chasing me around New York City with the GoPro, and we would like watch the footage back and just like laugh at how like just obscene it was, and just like, you know, you have this massive lens that's supposed to catch everything and I'm still just like not really planning my runs and he's just chasing me on foot. And it was so cool to be on a skateboarding trip that, I mean, the purpose of it was for like a Thrasher article that came out, but also to be able to like do that playful stuff, like, yeah, if you guys want to go film like a goofy video part, go do that. And to ride for a team that cares not just about the riders, but the friends of the team riders, and not just be about like business, like you got to get photos for the magazine, you got to get clips. Don't get me wrong, that was the purpose of it, and there was a lot of that going on. But I think the way that most people envision what a skateboard trip would be for a company is not how it actually is. It ends up being pretty businessy, and there's a good bit of pressure on some team riders. But the way that you probably imagined it is actually what Powell Peralta does. I mean, one of my favorite qualities about it is it puts no effort into being cool. George basically just tries to make better products. He just tries to take what exists and improve upon it. And then we just skate together and have a good time and document some of it. And we just happen to have some riders that are actually like extremely good at skateboarding. But a huge part of that program is the people like Kenny and Vaughn and Victor. One of the really great things about Victor for me personally was I'm a bit of a skate nerd, but my skate nerdiness kind of ends around 2015. But everything up until that point, I got down pretty well. I can nerd out with some of the best of them. If I was on that Transworld Skate Nerd show and they kept it before 2015, I think I would slaughter most people. Whereas Victor's like, he's a younger guy. So he has the same mindset that I had then, but with the current skateboarding world. So I would be telling him all this random niche information about Sorry and Yeah Right and Jamie Thomas rumors, or like, you know, whatever you could possibly imagine, or any nerdy stuff you could probably think of. And then he would come back at me with what's going on now, and seeing the way that he would light up, like hearing this information because he just loves skateboarding so much, was so refreshing to be around. Not saying that there's not other people like that, but specifically him. I pride myself in being a bigger fan of skateboarding itself than just about everyone I know. But I think little Vic was like right there with me. Like he really, really, really loves skateboarding. He's the kind of guy who, when people would be maybe shit talking a little bit too much, not saying that he didn't get down with a little hazing here and again, but just kind of be like, hey, so like, why are you saying that? And though he was a pretty quiet and seemingly reserved person, you spend a little bit of time with him and I don't think you would be too confused on who he was. There's not a team rider who has ridden for Powell Peralta in the past 2 years who's not affected by this pretty significantly, because he was such a part of the team and of our lives. And for me, the reason that I'm recording this video right now is the way that I tend to process things. It comes in very awkward bursts, and right now I feel, I don't know if stoic's the right word, but I have a bit of a grip on myself, and there's some things that I wanted to talk about dealing with situations like this that hopefully, and it's probably niched down to people who feel the same way as I do when it comes to things like this, maybe it could help. So for me, it feels a bit like, you know, when you yawn, or when you're about to yawn and you kind of catch yourself yawning and you screw up the yawn, and then like you're trying to yawn again and you can't. That's kind of how the processing goes for me a lot of times, to where I'm feeling it well up inside of me and knowing that I'm gonna turn the faucet for a second and I'm gonna be able to get a lot of this out and be able to sort through the mess that it's gonna leave. But then like right before it really starts, I like kind of lose it. And it's something that I've kind of struggled with in general. I'm a bit of a late learner, and evidently I'm a bit of a late feeler, which I don't know if you can relate to that, but it takes a second for me. I feel kind of like Daria in the intro of the show Daria, where the volleyball goes past her and then she goes, like, it's a bit late. But since I've been in the situation a few times with close friends and family members, I've learned a few things. And I'm not really the person who likes to talk to other people about these things. Like when I'm going through a hard time, I mean, I don't mean like I'm like a injured cat where I find a corner and die alone. I mean, I process much better on my own. And then once I'm done sorting through what I think I feel or what I feel, then I can start having conversations with people later on about like, well, this, and this, and then I can get their perspective. And it ends up probably taking me a little bit longer to sort these things in my head than maybe other people. But it's the only way that I can do it. I can't. Tragic things tend to make me angry and a bit alienated, especially in a situation like this one where it was my friend who was extremely young and had, like, he was just getting started. I've sort of found my way around dealing with things a little bit more efficiently, maybe not faster, but more efficiently. And this might sound kind of silly, but it helps me a lot to, whether it's through like music or poetry or a character in a movie or a character in a story, to find these potent points of said thing and focus on that to try to pull out what I'm assuming my subconscious is trying to hold down so much. It's sort of like the opposite of Peter Pan's happy thought. It's like a very potent, this is actually what you're feeling, now rub your nose into it until you can get to work. And maybe that has a bit to do with my own dealings with like empathy. For me, sympathy is always something that I could do. I can look at a situation and understand where it's wrong, and I can feel for that person's circumstance and even like put myself in their shoes and think like, oh, well, maybe what would I do? But the empathy, the emotional part of it, where you actually feel what they're feeling, where you see someone struggling with something and all of a sudden you feel that struggle inside of you, is something that I was always extremely terrible at. And I sort of was worried that I just was born without that. Looking back in the past, I'm not going to self-diagnose, but there was times and events that I feel like I had it, and then life, and then I kind of lost it. But I've been spending the last, I don't know, maybe year really working on specifically empathy. And it's something that little Vic and me had a long conversation about, driving back from Raleigh Skate Park one day. It didn't seem like something that he struggled with, but I feel, empathized with how upset I was that I struggled with empathy, if that makes any sense. And I could just be running my mouth into the void, and that's fine. But these are things that I normally would share on my other channel, but you guys know Vic on this channel, and I thought maybe I had something, hopefully of value to say. And if not, honestly, I feel a bit better talking a little bit about it. And I'd appreciate all my friends who watch this video to not also try to have some heart-to-heart with me. Once again, when I'm ready to talk about things, I promise I'll reach out to you. There's like 3 people, you probably know who you are. We will talk about it, but I'll come to you. I think I'll be able to get to the regularly scheduled program tomorrow, even though I'm sick. And to everyone who never got to meet Vic or have a conversation with him, my condolences. He was an incredible person, and